There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. It's Monday and a new week has begun. You're tuned into the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. It's a Supernatural News and ParaShare Monday. I'm your host, Dave Schrader, and joining me from the Supernatural News desk somewhere in a dark, creepy bunker, probably surrounded with Twinkie wrappers and Yoo-Hoo bottles, Mr. Tim Dennis. Tim, how are you?
Pretty good. I don't quite roll with the Yoo-Hoo anymore.
No?
No, but I'm still down with the Twinkies, Dave, and I'll tell you a little bit why a little later in the program, because you're going to be stalking me in Twinkies for quite a while, my friend. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What?
Yeah, I've got a story that basically says I win. I win.
Oh, no, not this nonsense again.
Yeah,
all right, let's get to it. We've got Supernatural News. We've got ParaShare, some of your stories to share later. Let's get with it, Mr. Dennis. What are we doing in the world of Supernatural News?
Well, we're going to a place that I can't pronounce, of course. And don't email me, don't message me, don't tell me you know better. And especially if you're Welsh. By the way, if you're Welsh, you don't know how to pronounce stuff anyways. You don't know English. I don't care. I don't need lessons. And that's my rant for the week.
All right.
It's I know it's only closed circuit to probably one person who's bothering me on Facebook, but I don't care. I don't care. It was Kevin Meaney who used to do that. That's going back quite a ways. He used to do that little rant. We're going to Sterling.
Are you
do
on
you remember
drugs
that?
again?
I am a little bit. I still have a little bit of leftover pain meds that I like to indulge in every once in a while. Yeah. We're going to Stirlingshire Village, Dave, which I believe is the UK's version of Disney World, if I remember right.
Ooh, and I'll have to check that out when I'm over there.
Well, it's probably not. I'm probably making it up.
Oh, well.
But residents in Stirlingshire Village are reacting to the sighting of a mysterious creature in a field, Dave. A creature in a field.
Oh, yes.
Probably because they don't have cable over there. I don't know. Those living in Killern, at least that's the way I pronounce it, have been discussing the odd sight which was captured by a local man by the name of Jimmy Wright while out walking his son's dog. Why? Because his son is one of those lazy millennials. I don't know. I'm making that part up. People in the West Stirlingshire village of Killern, it might be even Killarney, I have no idea, could be giving Loch Ness a run for its money. Main Street resident Jimmy Wright, 66 years young, Dave, he's out there walking the old dog, snapped an odd sight while walking his son's dog on Crow Hill, known locally as the Cowfield. I don't know why a street is known as the Cowfield, but
probably because there's cows that graze along it in a field. I'm going out on a limb with that guess, but that would be where I would be coming from.
They're so literal over there, Dave. They're so literal.
Yeah.
These days, such things cause ripples on social media. Jimmy told the Observer, I put it on Facebook, but I was taken aback at just how much response it received. It definitely has people talking.
Now, are you looking at this picture? It definitely is intriguing. And at first glance, it would appear to be like a miniature brontosaurus, kind of rearing up on its hind legs, its front legs out, its neck and head upright. And that's what it looks like. However, I've also seen a lot of twisted tree stumps, and that's what it looks like to me, is kind of the remnants of a twisted tree stump.
Yeah, you know, when you put it that way.
Or a baby brontosaurus. It's one or the other. There, to me, I don't believe there's any gray ground in this one, Tim. It's baby brontosaurus possible, maybe 50% possible.
Right. Yeah.
Or it's a tree stump, maybe 95% possible.
I've got a theory that will put both of them into one category.
What?
It could be that a baby brontosaurus has grown into a tree stump, Dave.
No, I don't.
You like that?
No, that's organic manner turning into a tree stump doesn't make much sense, Tim. This isn't Hollywood.
No. Oh.
Yeah. So
well, if it were,
what else does it say about it? I mean, is it? Have they defined anything? Is anybody else? I mean, it seems like a lot of people this week were talking about that news story. I would guess more than one person has gone out to that area. Somebody's got to know if that's a tree stump by now.
Oh, just told Jimmy. He was the only one out there. No, I'm kidding. Jimmy told the Observer that it's definitely got people talking. People have already likened it to part tortoise, part stoat, or I don't know what a stoat is, and various other creatures. When I came towards it, said Jimmy, who retired as an NHS general manager for mental health services in Glasgow in 2006, he said, I was struck by how prolific it was and took a picture. I thought it looked like a dinosaur. I've been up that way before, but the sight of it was definitely unexpected. I put it on the Kalern for All Facebook page, and the comments began. One resident, Mary Young, suggested we try to get someone to name it, so I agreed to donate £100 to the charity of the choice of the person who comes up with the name with the most likes.
Stumpy.
So now we're
Stumpy. Put it in for Darkness Radio and Beyond the Darkness. We think it should be named Stumpy the Dinosaur.
Stumpy. Yeah, I like it. Actually, that's my nickname, Dave. So why would you take my nickname and give it to a dinosaur?
How about Shithiad? Shithiad the Dinosaur. Shithiad. Shithiad.
Yeah, Dave, that's not how you spell Shithiad.
It is Shithiad. E-A-D. Shithiad. Shithiad, Tim. Shithiad, the dinosaur.
That's also how you spell how my dad pronounced my name for my entire childhood.
You were Stumpy Shithiad?
Yes, although that's not how he said it.
Oh.
Yeah, he separated between the T and the H.
Oh.
And said it a whole different way.
Shite-headed?
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, they give it more of a and that was pretty much how it was my entire childhood. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. I know your family mostly loves you.
Sad but true. Anyway, so one resident, Mary Young, suggested that they try to get someone to name it, and like they said, £100 to the person who wins, or £100 to the charity of the choice, rather, to the person who wins. My cousin from Canada, who happens to be an ophthalmic optician, wow, talk about a title, even commented 3 times, said Jimmy. There have been lots of suggestions, and Nessie Dorma seems to be ahead at the moment, although I like yours, Dave. But more are coming in. At the end of the day, if it gets people talking and gives everyone a bit of escape from all the bad news there seems to be at the moment, then it's all good. If it brightens up someone's day and makes some money for charity, all the better, Jimmy went on to say. Mary Young added, we could reinvent Kalern on the strength of this wonderful site and save the Black Bull and reopen the Spar as a Kalern Nessie gift shop. Oh, they're already building commerce around it, Dave. There have been quite a few names put forward so far, but the competition will run until July 25th, which is just a couple
tomorrow.
Tomorrow. To give those on holiday a chance to see and contribute.
All right, what is the website so I can go see and contribute? I'm going to type that in right now so I can put up Shithiad and Stumpy.
Well, you have to go to Facebook. So it's actually the let me grab the Facebook page name here again.
I'm doing this while we're doing the show.
Okay, so the Facebook page name is the Kalern, so Killearn. Kalern for All Facebook page.
Kalern for All Facebook page. I found it. I found it. You guys, now everybody's got to go there and vote on Shithiad.
Shithiad?
Yes.
Now is it?
I got to join the group. Oh, dang it. I'm joining the group. Let me see. Could you tell us what your connection is to the area and why you want to join the Kalern for All page? Please. If the question is not answered, approval will not be given. Thanks.
Oh, my God.
Admin.
Really?
Well, listen,
we want to
you
name
elitist
Shithiad.
bastards. You keep you and your stupid stumpy dinosaur to yourself, then I'm not joining. I don't want to be a part of any club that wants me anyway. Isn't that what Groucho used to say?
I think that,
It's kind of hurtful that Groucho didn't want to belong to a club I belong to anyway. All right, where are we going next in the world of supernatural news?
Well, we're waiting silently for my computer to think about it.
Oh.
And then actually, we'll go from one creature to another, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
This is the holy bleep moment in our program. The one where, yes, literally you too could lay one down on the concrete if you'd like. This is one of those moments where we go, what the?
Right.
Yeah. An astonishing moment, Dave, where a crocodile returns the body of a man it killed a day earlier after it's summoned by a witch doctor.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Do you believe in magic, Dave?
Do I believe in magic? Yes, I do. Why? What?
In the witch doctor's heart.
Magic, witch doctors? Okay.
This is the astonishing moment of a crocodile as it clutches a missing man in its jaws after a witch doctor claimed he summoned it to return the body. We're going to tell you all about it here. The missing man, identified as 41-year-old Sharafuddin. You thought, what was the name you came up with for the dinosaur was a good one?
Stumpy Shathiad,
yeah. There you go. So this is Sharafuddin, 41 years old, was bathing in a river with friends when the beast pounced and dragged him beneath the water in Barau, Indonesia on Tuesday at 6:20 p.m. Desperate relatives reportedly searched in vain for him, and it was assumed that he had been taken into the depths of the Lempaki River when police failed to find him.
Yeah.
Now, villagers contacted a local black magic wizard who specializes in crocodile witchcraft. You can look that up, by the way, right there in the white pages online, and it'll come right up, by the way.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a category. Crocodile witchcraft.
Yeah.
And it's claimed that they can cast a spell for Sharafuddin to be brought back alive.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Incredibly, his body is said to have emerged yesterday morning.
Weird.
True. Even looking at the picture here. God.
I was able to this is hard, Tim. You've got to go on a place called the dark web.
Okay.
You're able to obtain some really interesting information. Sometimes it's dark. Sometimes it's chilly.
It is.
Hence the term, the dark web.
But
I wanted to find out what this incantation was like. And find out exactly what was said. Because this is weird. For a guy to be attacked by an alligator one day, usually they attack, they roll, they pull you under, they eat you, and then they store away your body.
Yeah.
But no. In this case, they get the witch doctor, who does this incantation to bring back the body, and it actually worked. And the witch doctor is on record, Tim, literally explaining how to do this.
Okay.
You heard it, Tim. Ooh-ee. Ooh-ah-ah. A ting-tang and a walla-walla bing-bang. I think that's what brought it back, was the walla-walla bing-bang. If I were a scientist, which I'm not, I would guess that's the part of the incantation that says bring him back.
That is incredibly complex, Dave. How do you remember all those words?
It's, kind of got that mind. I hardly, once something's in there, it's locked in like a steel trap, Tom.
My name's Tim.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, so it brings back the body?
Yeah.
The Predator, has it taken some bites out of it or what?
Well, we'll find out here. The Predator is purportedly seen floating to the banks with with the naked body of Sharafuddin in its jaws as the gathered crowd looks on in video footage from the scene. It then dropped off the corpse, just dropped it off, hi-yo, and then boom, right there on the bank, sparking suggestions the saltwater crocodile, which can grow up to 5.2 meters as an adult, had actually been guarding the victim's body from other predators, seeing as it hadn't been eaten. That's right, folks. The body hadn't been eaten. Friend Andy Resmeen, who was with Sharafuddin when he was captured by the croc, said he was just in the water and the crocodile humped at him and took him. That's the quote. I didn't make it up.
Yeah, I think humped in their language means like ran at him.
I think, yeah, it's totally different.
Unless he's put his little arms up behind his head and started dry hump in the air, and he's trying to allure you in with that.
Yeah, it's not an R. Kelly type of hump. It's a different type of hump. Yeah. Local resident Eat said there was a local myth that anyone bathing with clothes on in the river would be fine, but bathing naked would result in a crocodile attack. Evidently, they're an Oscar Mayer wiener lover, too.
Yeah, here's the one thing. First, if I were to bathe in a river, it would be fully clothed because I don't need those like urethra swimming, barbed, microscopic, nasty things climbing up my junk.
Yeah, the little fish-hook urethra worms. Yeah,
I would rather bathe in pig stool than roll around in a lake, especially where there are alligators known to live, Tim.
Actually, that's the name of my new album, Bathing in Pig Stool.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's going to be popular.
Holy God, what are you thinking? Well, don't go into water naked. Don't do it. The alligator come for you, Tim.
Wow.
I don't think that's,
That's
so
the
if you're naked,
Indiana Jones movie. Yeah.
And if you're clothed, you're good.
Right. You got it. He said if the person bathes naked, they will be definitely eaten by crocodiles for sure. If they wear clothes, they will not be ambushed. Shari Fooden was found dead and had injuries to his ribs on the right side of his body. Police Chief Inspector Talasian Faisal Hamid, who is now investigating the incident, said the victim's friends report to the officer he was attacked by a crocodile. That night we did a search. The officer said nothing was returned that evening, and so residents contacted a crocodile charmer. That's right, Dave. That's an actual occupation there in Indonesia.
Oh, Bob, you old crocodile charmer, you.
And the body appeared the next morning on Wednesday. Hamid said that it was very weird that 3 crocodiles emerged from the river, suggesting the body of the man was being protected so that the victim could be delivered. He said people also bathe in the water, so again, it is unlucky that he was killed by the crocodile. Police Inspector Hamid said the important thing was that the body had been found and that the locals were now hunting the crocodile that attacked the man. My whole thing
he brought it back. He was like, sorry, I grabbed this out of the fridge. I thought it was my lunch. It's not. I'm bringing it back.
Well, there you go. The other thing,
Rolf
too,
the dog
is
related to that alligator as well.
Yes, Rolf the dog was a distant cousin of that crocodile. The other thing, too, is this crocodile's already been successful at dragging one away. Right. Why do you want to send the search party out and risk any of y'all getting drugged back under?
Because crocodile's good eating, Tim. I mean, it's not good to eat, but I mean, they're good at eating. So, yeah.
But this guy, this crocodile, this young croc, evidently is good at his job.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, he's something special.
Wow.
He's got a talent.
I can't, I wouldn't, no. So many reasons that you would never find me in that situation. So, again, thankful I'm not an outdoorsman, Tim.
Yeah,
I never want to find myself needing to bathe in a crocodile-infested river. And people bathe in that, and they probably use the water for cooking and bathrooming, and
Well, once you boil it, Dave, it's actually it's sterile except for the urethra worms.
No.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Where are we off to next? That's not equally horrifying.
We'll tame it down for you here a little bit so you can kind of catch your breath.
And I can sleep good.
Yeah. A young couple on a tour of a North Carolina palace accidentally filmed the ghost of a female servant who died in a fire casually strolling across a hallway there because, after you've died in a horrible fire, you got to go out for a walk.
They're casual about stuff at that point. It's like, what else is going to possibly bother you? I've died in a fire. I have nowhere to be. So I'm just going to stroll.
Nowhere to be.
Yeah.
They burned my house down. Yeah. I mean, I can just go for a casual walk. A young couple caught footage of what they believe could be the ghost of a female servant at a palace where she died in a fire in the 18th century. 21-year-old Danielle Hyde and 23-year-old Savannah Brown visited Tryon Palace in North Carolina. Tryon, heck, we stayed there. That's my bad joke for the day. For a day out when... Yeah, okay. When Danielle, you won't keep me to it. When Danielle filmed a Snapchat video of the interior, spooky footage, that's what we call it here in Minnesota, Spooky footage showed the ghostly figure of what appears to be a woman in period dress walking past the doorway while carrying a basket. The duo believes that the lady could be the spirit of a servant who perished in a blaze at the palace in 1798, which began in the cellar and engulfed much of the building. Danielle from Goldsboro said the palace is actually known for being haunted. There was a fire there in 1798, and I believe it started where the servants used to live. It was like she was see-through. You couldn't see her back at all, and as it was mostly out of the picture. Her silhouette wasn't very detailed, and you can't make out the color of her hair, for example. It's hard to tell, but I think she was a younger woman, and she was wearing what looked like a servant's dress and carrying a basket. I think because of how old the building was and the history, it did feel eerie. We were just going around on the tour and listening to the guide. I wasn't trying to capture anything specific, but showing the surroundings, and I only noticed the ghostly figure in the background when my cousin messaged me saying, "Is that a ghost?" Here's the spooky thing in the article, Dave. They're standing next to each other, and they had to message each other to say, "Is that a ghost?" How about we just look up for a second and talk to each other? After Danielle had uploaded the video to Snapchat last weekend, she still had no idea about the ghost until she watched it back. When she returned home, she did some more research into the history of the palace and discovered the story of the tragic fire. Danielle said, "I hadn't noticed her while I was in the room. It was only when I went back to look over the video that I saw her. I didn't really think anything of it because I had ghostly things happen to me before, like hearing footsteps on the stairs or paintings falling off walls with being knocked. Little things like that. Little things like paintings falling off walls."
Yeah, well, just little things. It's not like they're daggers flying across the room trying to stab you in the eye. Just little things.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, little things. Nonetheless, people don't typically capture this stuff on camera. When we were down in the cellar, it was freezing, yet the windows weren't open, and it was hot outside, she went on to say. So there you go.
Interesting. Yeah. Kind of.
Yeah.
All right, where are we off to next?
Let's see here. You got to give my computer a little chance to catch up here.
Sure.
We will go to another haunted story here. This time, a terrified mom is desperate to sell a haunted doll that scratched her husband and set off the smoke alarms.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
Debbie Merrick claims that a 5-pound charity shop purchase has a life of its own. Its very own, Dave. Okay. A terrified mom is desperate to be rid of a haunted doll that she claims keeps setting the smoke alarms off in the middle of the night and has left her husband covered in scratches.
Ooh.
And has the ability to move around by itself.
I know what I'm getting you for Christmas.
Oh, boy.
Well, you got a birthday coming up. Why do I have to wait till Christmas?
I know,
I can get
right?
the gift for you right now.
Does she have the ability to love me?
Passion scratches, full of love, I guess.
Oh, I guess, yeah. Passion Scratches, the name of my next album. 50-year-old Debbie Merrick bought 3 pretty China dolls for just £5 from a secondhand shop at the start of July. But since bringing the trio home, has found her family plagued with supernatural problems. A week after placing her new purchases in their spare room, Debbie's husband, Cameron, who's at the very young, tender age of 50 years old, alarmed to find that he had woken up one morning with small scratches on his leg. Oh, Cameron, we're such a
buttercup.
Such a tender young man of 50. Debbie said the smoke alarms kept going off, and one night I heard the floorboards creaking and thought it might be my daughter Holly having woke up. But when I checked on her, she was asleep. Then one morning, my husband said to me, "I've got scratches all over me legs." That's me doing my dramatic interpretation of the cowardly
version of it.
Right. A cowardly 50-year-old Cameron. It definitely hadn't happened before. They looked a bit like cat scratches and were sore. Oh, Cameron. Oh, you tender little man, you. My husband is a complete non-believer. He's still trying to come up with an explanation. The scratches do look like they've been done by something small, like little doll hand scratches. Oh, God, it's the cutest thing ever, Dave.
That's terrifying.
Holly keeps telling people that creepy dolls have scratched her dad's legs. Oh, the poor man. I've had a nightmare about a doll dragging itself along the floor towards me.
Yeah, I've had those nightmares. Mine's usually
had those nightmares?
half deflated inflatable doll, though, and it's very upset.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Well, that thing can choke you. I mean, if you swallow it wrong. I don't know why you'd be swallowing it, though. I don't know. It's a fantasy. One of the reasons that the family smoke alarms keep going off is because the spirit in the doll is moving through the house and causing sudden changes in temperature, triggering the device's heat sensors, according to these people. Debbie mentioned her toy terror to a medium pal, who immediately freaked out and warned her that the doll had something in it. Her psychic friend became upset about being under the same roof as the spooky doll. Is everyone chicken shit here? What's the deal?
Well, dude, listen how brave you are. Dude, if you wake up, if I buy you a stupid doll and you start waking up with claw marks all over your legs and you're having dreams of this doll climbing after you, and crossing the floor to get you. No, you're going to be a little wigged out.
I wake up with things in my legs all the time. I don't wake up and get all...
Big brave Tim. I've seen you shake when a glass slides across the counter and tries to stab you in the throat.
When?
Oh, well, I'm sure I would if I ever saw it happen.
Well, yeah.
So what's the outcome with this story?
So her psychic friend... Her psychic friend became upset after being under the same roof as the spooky doll, so Debbie placed it in a box in the shed. But that wasn't the end of it, Dave. No.
Never is.
Probably did something like yell boo. When she went into the shed 2 days later, she noticed that the doll had moved, Dave. It moved!
Good God.
And its necklace was missing.
Dun, dun, dun.
Debbie said, when I brought the dolls through for my friend to take a look, she said, get it out. It's got something in it. She refused to sleep in the same house as it. She was freaking out about it. I put it in the shed in a box and placed things on top of it because that's going to stop this ungodly, unholy spirit. Debbie claims a possessed doll managed to remove the necklace while trapped in a box in the shed. The frickin' thing's Houdini, for crying out loud.
God. See, then another reason to be afraid of it, Tim.
I know, right?
First of all, I don't know what's going on. Why I've got the Tony the Tiger voice today. I think it was a long weekend of yelling and having fun at the Belvoir Winery, but I'm Barry White myself today, baby.
I had a couple of cigars by the fire this weekend, so my voice is a little ragged too.
Sure.
It says, then the other day I had to go into the shed to get something, and when I looked in the box, the necklace on the doll was completely off, and the doll was in a different position, I'm sure. A different position, Dave. When I'd packed away, I'd made sure the necklace was wrapped around its neck about 4 times, probably just to choke the shit out of it. Yeah. I was quite scared of it, to be honest. I just kept thinking, how? I didn't want to touch it, and when I had to touch it, I felt sick. She felt sick, Dave.
Well, it's a demonically possessed scratchy doll.
Yeah. Debbie has now placed the doll for sale on eBay, so you too now can own this slightly annoying doll.
Oh, no, I won't, but you will. Happy birthday to you, Mr. Brave Guy. It's you.
And hopes that its starting price of £25 will entice an experienced demonologist or brave amateur ghost hunter to take it off her hands.
I see.
She added, I took some pictures of it because I wanted to put it on eBay. Then I left it. I even struggled to upload the pictures on eBay. It was really strange. That had never happened before. I don't want to... I know. I don't want to go back into the shed now. I won't touch it again. It can get picked up if it's bought. If we need to post it, my husband can package it up.
Nice.
Oh, Mr. Scratchy is going to manage to wrap some paper.
Tim Dennis at 485.
Hey, whoa.
What?
Hey.
Well, how else are we going to get it to? 485.
You know what? If they really want to send it, they can email me personally, and I'll send them the address.
All right. Well, email Tim at darknessradio.com. He gets a lot of emails. Yeah. If you miss it, give him a call at 612-58. What?
Email's fine.
Yeah, but I just figured you get so many emails. It might be easier to just text you at 612.
You know what? I'll get to it. I'll get to it.
Wow.
I'll get to the email.
Okay.
There's no rush. My birthday isn't for another month.
Well.
Some people on social media, as she says, have told me it has something in it. Some said it doesn't, like this guy reading the story. If it doesn't sell, she says, I'll give it to a charity shop. It's the women in my family who experience paranormal things. In my last house, there was definitely something there. Oh, so stuff follows her around, I guess. I think my dad, who died recently, might be trying to get in touch, she goes on to say. So it's dad scratching the husband.
Yeah, well, that would make more sense.
A little slap and tickle going on in the household, I guess. So to wrap up this story, she says, there could be something in the doll. I believe things can attach to items. That's why I have no old furniture in my house. Debbie, who also claims to have been visited by a ghost when she was 5 years old, added that it was like she wasn't clear of mind when she made the fateful decision to take the dolls home, as if she had been bewitched.
But Go ahead and sing. Weird. When you said bewitched, your voice got all crazy and mechanical there.
Bewitched.
Yeah, that was weird. It was like you were channeling Stephen Hawking for a second. Hey, speaking of channeling, Tim, the Edge Life Expos and Events presents its first Maple Grove, Minnesota Holistic and Psychic Expo this Saturday, July 29th, 2017, at the Maple Grove Community Center. The event will begin at 10 a.m., doors close at 7 p.m., parking is free, and there will be food available for sale. The day will provide a broad spectrum of opportunities for visitors to learn about the world of spirituality and psychic phenomena. The spotlight of the event will be the 30-plus exhibitors, and they've opened a second room for the special event. There are intuitive readers, wellness products, healing resources, animal communicators, aura photos, jewelry, crystals, and other unique gift items, plus much, much more. The symposium date, again, this Saturday, July 29th, 2017, from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. I'll be there. I'll be at one of the main tables, and I'll be there with John DeSalvo. We'll be answering questions about this kind of weird change that's taking place in the world. What's going on, and have we seen this before? Is there a definite and profound thing that's on its way? We're going to talk to you about that, so you can stop by. Again, free parking is available at the Maple Grove Community Center. General admission ticket only $5 online or $5 at the door. $5, you can't go wrong. You can find more information at edgelife.net. That's edgelife.net. And again, that's the Edge Life Expos and Events this Saturday, Maple Grove Holistic and Psychic Expo at the Maple Grove Community Center from 10 a.m. till 7 p.m. Come on out, visit with me, spend some time at my table. I'm good at giving hugs. I'll be there doing that. What's our next story, Tim?
Shroud of Turin, Dave.
Oh, yes, I read about this. Now, this seemed like I get the fact of what they're going for, but it seems a bit redundant in the explanation. But let's hear what they had to say.
The headline alone is a little kinky, I'm not going to lie.
You're right.
The Shroud of Turin bears the blood of a torture victim.
Yeah, we already kind of knew that, right? I mean, it wasn't like we thought Jesus was on like a spa vacation laying on a towel at, Cabo San Lucas and just left a coconut oil stain on this thing. We know that he was abused.
It's not like the crucifixion was a chiropractic visit.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, it just wasn't. New research indicates that the Shroud of Turin shows signs of blood from a torture victim, right? Mm-hmm. And undermines arguments that the reputed burial shroud of Jesus Christ was painted. Very small particles attached to the linen fibers of the shroud have recorded a scenario of great suffering whose victim was wrapped up in the funeral cloth, said Elvio Carlino, Dave.
He's one of my favorite.
He is one of my favorites. A researcher at the Institute of Crystallography. The particles, called nanoparticles, had a peculiar structure, size, and distribution, said University of Padua professor Giulio Fanti? Fanti is his name. I used to drink those when I was in Jamaica.
Yeah, orange was my favorite. Orange.
Oh, I love the grape with the orange. They're great. And the nanoparticles are not typical of the blood of a healthy person. Rather, they show high levels of substances called creatine and ferritin, found in patients who suffer forceful multiple traumas like torture. Hence, the presence of these biological nanoparticles found during our experiments point to a violent death for the man wrapped in the Shroud of Turin. Hold on just one second. My article jumped ahead here. Fanti went on to say, The Shroud's latest researchers published their findings and measurements in the U.S. open access peer-reviewed journal PLOS One, in an article titled New Biological Evidence from Atomic Resolution Studies on the Turin Shroud, because I couldn't find a shorter headline.
Yeah, that's a mouthful.
It is. The Turin-based newspaper La Stampa's Vatican Insider reported the findings contradict claims that the shroud is a painted object, which claims which are common among those who suggest it is a medieval forgery. The characteristics of these particles cannot be artifacts made over the centuries on the fabric of the shroud, Fonte went on to say. Among the most well-known relics believed to be connected with Jesus Christ's Passion, the Shroud of Turin has been venerated for centuries by Christians as the burial shroud of Jesus. It has been the subject to intense scientific study to ascertain its authenticity and the origins of the image. Appearing on the 14-foot-long, 3.5-foot-wide cloth is a faintly stained post-mortem image of a man, front and back, who has been brutally tortured and crucified. The image becomes clear in a haunting photo negative. The study of the particles took place on the nanoscale, ranging from 1 to 100 nanometers. A nanometer is about a billionth the length of a meter. The findings could only be revealed by the methods recently developed in the field of electron microscopy, said Carlino. He said the research marked the first study of the nanoscale properties of a pristine fiber taken from the Shroud of Turin. Researchers drew on experimental evidence of atomic resolution studies and recent medical studies on patients who suffered multiple acts of trauma and torture. The research was carried out by the Istituto Officia del Materiale in Trieste and the Institute of Crystallography in Bari, both under Italy's National Research Council as well as University of Padua's Department of Industrial Engineering. So there you go.
All right. Hey, you've got some entertainment stories for us, don't you?
I do have entertainment stories, Dave. Let's see here. Let's go to the first one I have here.
Okay.
Which is...
Since we are big fans of Hollyweird.
Which is just kind of circulating and moving around here. I really do have an X-Files story here, Dave. Here we go.
Yes.
A story on the X-Files and the season 11 release date. A little bit of cast news and an old favorite returning to the show. The X-Files is back for the 11th season after ending the previous one on a bit of a cliffhanger. An old cast member is also returning to the show that became a hit at the turn of the new millennium. FBI company man Walter Skinner, Mitch Pileggi, will be back investigating the unknown with Fox Mulder, David Duchovny, and Dana Scully, Gillian Anderson. Pileggi reached a deal that would see him reprise his role in some capacity in the new 10-episode run of X-Files, which will air during the upcoming fall season. Pileggi was among the original cast members and played the FBI assistant director to agents Mulder and Scully. Skinner is important parts of the show, as he has appeared in all 10 seasons since 1994. The TV series went on hiatus in 2002, and it came back last year for a 6-episode run. It was recently announced that the previous season's writers are also coming back, which include Glenn Morgan and James Wong, who wrote both the episode Squeeze, and Darren Morgan, who penned Clyde Bruckman's Final Repose.
Those are two awesome episodes.
They are.
Oh, that Squeeze episode and Tombs. I think that Tombs is the only one that's an official sequel to an episode, and that was Squeeze. And then the Repose episode was great. It had Peter Boyle in it, and it was one of the most clever, well-written episodes. It's really, really a cool episode.
Fans can expect 2 episodes to be written by Morgan for the upcoming season. Fans were hoping the creator of Breaking Bad, Vince Gilligan, would pen an episode for the 11th season of X-Files since he was a writer in the earlier seasons. To their disappointment, however, his name did not appear in the full lineup of writers for this coming season. The last season of X-Files left viewers with a cliffhanger wherein Mulder was in bad physical shape due to an unknown virus, prompting Scully to search for him. However, because of the hysteria caused by the virus, Scully got caught in a mass traffic jam. Then when she exited her car, a UFO appeared hovering above her, which ended the finale. Creator Chris Carter will be back as showrunner for the new season, which is expected to resolve the unanswered questions of the last installment, Production for The X-Files will start later this summer, and Season 11 is expected to premiere during the 2017-2018 season.
Yes. God, I can't wait for that. I love that show. I got the last miniseries on DVD and just sat down and really marveled at what a beautiful job they did at recapturing it. And you remember my question was, how do you redo The X-Files? Because when it went off the air, there weren't all of these paranormal TV shows on that are investigating Bigfoot, UFOs, and ghosts every week.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it in such a clever way.
They really did, yeah.
The episode the were-lizard episode with Mulder and Scully.
Yep.
They have Mulder questioning his whole belief system and everything that he's always been interested in. And it was just such a great series. I'm so glad they did it, and I'm glad there's more coming. All right, what have you got next for us?
Well, we move on to comic book / horror / movie news.
Yeah,
I know that may be a little confusing. Todd McFarlane came out recently and said he's going to redo Spawn, but he's doing it as a horror movie, and he was serious. And I think a lot of comic book fans went, huh? But it has been picked up. The reboot of Spawn has been picked up by Blumhouse, believe it or not, Dave. Todd McFarlane's long-gestating Spawn movie reboot is finally becoming a reality thanks to Blumhouse. Todd McFarlane has been trying to get a new Spawn movie made for the past few years, and it looks like it's finally going to happen. Jason Blum and his Blumhouse Productions, you know them from horror movies like Get Out, Split, Paranormal Activity, and many more, will team up with McFarlane to make the new R-rated movie. And that's the other thing that McFarlane has mentioned time and time again. If you visit him on his Facebook page or any of his posts, he keeps insisting that this is going to be R-rated and very much in the vein of like a Saw type of movie. McFarlane made the announcement during a Facebook Live presentation at San Diego Comic-Con. McFarlane, who created the character back in 1992, will write, direct, and produce the film himself. He previously announced that he'd completed the first draft of a script of the film, which he described as a smaller affair than some of the current superhero spectacles. I'd put it more into the horror, suspense, supernatural genre, McFarlane told comicbook.com back in 2016. If you take the movie The Departed meets Paranormal Activity, something like that, in the background there's this thing moving around, this boogeyman. That boogeyman just happens to be something that you and I intellectually know as Spawn. Will he look like he did in the first movie? No. Will he have a supervillain he fights? No. He's going to be like the Spectre, the Ghost. So this will certainly be a different take than the 1997 film, which starred Michael Jai White, and John Leguizamo. Evidently, the critical and financial failure of Spawn's big screen debut stung McFarlane so bad that he decided to right the ship himself. No news on who might play Spawn in this new take. Definitely no sign of a release date, but we will keep you updated as we learn more.
See, here's the deal. Right now is the time to strike. Superhero movies have never been hotter, ever, in history. Mm-hmm. And to take a superhero genre-style movie and turn it on its ear, I think is great. Because I think Nolan was onto that with the Batman movie, Batman Begins.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember when Batman's just kind of zipping around, they don't see him, and he just keeps it's very comic booky, but he keeps yanking people up and they vanish. It's very creepy, monstery. And if they do it right, I think this could turn into a really neat subset of horror and showing that, because on the other side of it, what would it be like to really be out in the field as criminals knowing that a character like the Batman or Spawn existed? You would be terrified not knowing where this guy comes from, what he's capable of. I think that could play out really nicely if they do it the right way.
The original Spawn had a very, I thought, interesting storyline.
Right. Yeah, when you're mixing in the idea that he's going to hell and kind of saves his butt to not go to hell, but he has to do all these weird things, that fits like a weird horror genre too.
And in that, he says he's wiping the slate clean. So, and he's kind of presenting this boogeyman idea. If you're kind of taking the soul out of a character, yet you're still trying to give it a familiar name, are you really? I mean, it'd be like if I came to you, Dave, and I said, okay, we're going to make Batman, but he's not going to be Batman. If you're a Spawn fan at that point, is it something you really want to see? I guess that question is the one I throw out there to someone who's a true fan of Spawn, although I don't know very many of them anymore. I would think a lot of people have outgrown that.
Or they've forgotten about it. So I think that's why it might be a great time to revisit and kind of recreate and kind of take what he made and make it new and fresh. So I'll give him a chance. You know, McFarlane's a genius and he's done some amazing things and he's very creative. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt in the fact that he's hooking up with Blumhouse. I think they're going to keep an eye on the project as well.
Here's my only trepidation about it is that McFarlane and a lot of the guys who started the Image brand tended to pull a lot from other properties and try to make it their own. I would hope that someone from Blumhouse would get involved and inject some new ideas, because I'd hate to think that McFarlane is going to try to draw from other horror genres to make something his own. Yeah. I would like to see some newer life injected into it. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I said. I think if they handle it kind of like a superhero, maybe you're getting the view from the villain's point in this story and feeling like they're being stalked. You know, I think that's kind of a cool aspect. All right. Do we have any other stories to go over?
Yeah, we got a couple more. Actually, we have 3 more here.
All right, let's power through. I know we got a bunch of ParaShare stories to get to tonight, too.
All right. We have a house for sale. Mm-hmm. Well, it could be a bargain or it could be a boogeyman, one or the other. The owner of what's known as the Haunted Hill House in Mineral Wells, Texas, didn't know his house was allegedly haunted when he moved in, but that didn't stop the ghosts, folks say. About 9 apparitions reportedly haunt rooms with names such as the Joshua Room, the Shadow Room, and the Scratch Room. Luckily for potential buyers with an interest in the paranormal, the home is now available for sale at the very low price of $99,900. In addition to the ghost stories, you get 5 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. Built in 1890, the house has seen multiple uses, including a brothel. Multiple deaths are believed to have occurred in the brothel, including the owner falling to his death in the property's well. One of the employees reportedly gave birth on the property, but the child, Joshua, had health problems and died at the age of 6. He, the story goes, decided to stick around in the room now named after him and sometimes throws things at visitors. So you got that welcome wagon for you. There have been reports of visitors experiencing mysterious pain and cameras turning off when interviewers enter certain rooms in the main house. The owner, Phil Kirchhoff, lives in a smaller building on the 1.5-acre property. His wife refuses to set foot on the haunted site. The property is actually a thriving ghost tour business in which private overnight stays and paranormal investigations go for $400 a night. They are currently, by the way, sold out through October. Its value is not just in the house, says listing agent Becky Foley Richards. Kirchhoff has turned the property into a paranormal research center and often works in conjunction with the nearby Baker Hotel. The Baker has been featured on Celebrity Ghost Stories and the Travel Channel's Ghost Adventures and boasts a rich and haunted past of its own. In the early 20th century, hotel visitors likely visited the ladies of the brothel. After they purchased the property, Kirchhoff and his wife had every intention of doing the renovation work themselves until the spirits reportedly made their presence known. He currently is working with the city to bring the home up to code, but renovations tend to get supernaturally complicated. Showings aren't available for idle browsers or curious ghost hunters. Buyers have to be pre-approved with proof of financing from a private lender or have cash in hand. And, of course, the house also seems to be vetting potential.
Wait a minute. Why would I do all that if I don't even know if I want the house? Why would I have to be pending approval? And don't you usually go look at the house, get a feel for it first, see if it's something you want, then you put in an offer and prove all of that?
You do, but I think what they're doing is they're trying to avoid people who are just looky-loos and casual. Yeah.
Right, but if I was legitimately, interested in trying to find a house, it just seems weird to me that I got to provide everything up front. But I get where they're going with this.
Yeah,
I bet the same thing is in play for like Amityville when that goes up for sale.
I'm sure. Of course, the house also seems to be vetting potential future residents as well, with some visitors reporting experiencing extreme nausea upon opening certain doors. The listing warns against removing anything from the property. I won't even take a bottle cap outside, Foley Richards says. After seeing what happened to one of my clients, there's nothing in that house that I need or want, and I'm sure most of my clients feel the same way. Telling the story is great fun. It's like campfire time, she said, but I won't go in by myself.
All right, and as we wrap up, what are our final 2 stories for the evening?
Well, we'll start with UFOs, Dave. UFO in Cornwall, to be exact, over the past week. Well, hold on just a second. There we go. Over the past week, residents of Cornwall have reported seeing a strange shimmering object in the sky, which some believe is proof that extraterrestrials are visiting.
Okay. Shimmery lights in the sky equals extraterrestrial visitation. I can buy into this theory so far.
Exactly. The odd phenomenon was first spotted on Monday by surfer Kiefer Krishnan, who caught it on his GoPro camera, which is the way you should catch all good UFOs,
right.
By the way.
Everybody should carry a GoPro.
Exactly. And uploaded it to his Instagram with the caption, looking through the GoPro footage and found the strangest sighting at the end of the vid. Since then, a flurry of videos were uploaded to social media sites, all of which were spotted in different locations across the southwestern tip of England. Harry Wild wrote on Twitter, odd sighting at, I believe that's hashtag Fistral today. Anyone else see it? Hashtag UFO Cornwall. Another added, what? Spotted this weirdness near St. Austell today. Hashtag UFO Cornwall. Photographer Shane House also spotted the mysterious entity, this time over the A30. He asked, is this an alien spacecraft over the A30? Another Instagram user from Kent who posted footage over St. Austell said, what on earth is in the sky? It looks like some kind of craft to me. Has anyone else seen this?
That's interesting that so many different people are seeing it from different perspectives, and some of them are actually filming the same thing. That gets interesting.
Numerous other sightings have emerged of the bizarre UFO, leaving residents baffled. Some have speculated that it could be a flock of birds or insects, but it has a similar shape over several days and in the same locations. Experts say that the birds or insects theory could be unlikely. Others, however, theorize that it could be a publicity stunt from the Eden Project, which is set to open its new Journey into Space attraction on July 27th. A spokesperson for the Eden Project told Cornwall Live, it's true we have a galaxy of ways to tell a story of space at Eden this summer. To coin a phrase, the truth is out there. So there you go.
All right, and as we wrap up supernatural news aspect of the show, just before we launch into ParaShare, what is our final story for the night?
Oh, Dave. Are you ready?
Oh, no.
Is your wallet ready? That's what I want to know.
Let's hear it, Tim. I know that's what you're leading me into, aren't you?
In the words of ESPN, Dave, we can't stop it. We can only hope to contain it, Dave. Artificial intelligence, Dave. We can't stop it. We can only hope to contain it. It's inventing languages that we can't even understand, Dave.
What?
You heard me.
What?
And should we stop it? A new article is asking that question. Should we even stop it, Dave? Should we just let them continue? Should we just let them take over the planet? Researchers at Facebook realized that their bots were chattering in a new language on Facebook, Dave. And then they stopped it. Dead cold in its tracks. Bob says, I can I everything else. Alice says, balls have zero to me too. To you and I, that passage looks like nonsense. And it sounds like nonsense when I read it. But what if I told you this nonsense was a discussion of what might be the most sophisticated negotiation software on the planet? It really sounds like nonsense. Negotiation software that had learned and evolved to get the best deal possible with more speed and efficiency, and perhaps hidden nuance than you or I ever could. Because it is, Dave. This conversation occurred between two AI agents developed inside Facebook. At first, they were speaking to each other in plain old English. But then researchers realized they'd made a mistake in programming. Dhruv Batra is his name, said there was no reward to sticking to English language. He's a visiting research scientist from Georgia Tech at Facebook AI Research. They call it FAIR for short. As these two agents competed to get the best deal, a very effective bit of AI versus AI dogfighting researchers have dubbed a generative adversarial network Oh my God, this is scary. Neither was offered any sort of incentive for speaking as a normal person would, so they began to diverge, eventually rearranging legible words into seemingly nonsensical sentences. Agents will drift off understandable language and invent code words for themselves, says Batra, speaking to a now predictable phenomena that Facebook has observed again and again and again. Like if I say the 5 times you interpret that to mean I want 5 copies of this item, this isn't so different from the way communities of humans create shorthands. Follow what I'm saying?
Okay.
Okay. So indeed, it says humans have developed unique dialects for everything from trading pork bellies on the floors of the mercantile exchange to hunting down terrorists as SEAL Team 6, simply because humans sometimes perform better by not abiding to normal language conventions. So, should we let our software do the same thing? Should we allow AI to evolve its dialect for specific tasks that involve speaking to other AIs to essentially gossip out of our earshot? Maybe it offers the possibility of a more interoperable world, a more perfect place, Dave, where iPhones talk to refrigerators that talk to your car without a second thought. The trade-off is that we as humanity would have no clue what those machines are actually saying to each other because they're talking in code.
They say baloney.
Mm-hmm. Facebook ultimately opted to require its negotiation bots to speak in plain old English. Our interest was having bots who could talk to people, says Mike Lewis, research scientist at FAIR. Facebook isn't alone in that perspective. When I inquired to Microsoft about computer-to-computer languages, a spokesperson clarified that Microsoft was more interested in human-to-computer speech. Meanwhile, Google, Amazon, and Apple are also focusing on incredible energies on developing conversational personalities for human consumption. Mm-hmm. They're the next wave of user interface like the mouse and keyboard for the AI era. The other issue, as Facebook admits, is that it has no way of truly understanding any divergent computer language. It's important to remember there aren't bilingual speakers of AI and human languages, says Batra.
I disagree.
You're a bilingual speaker of AI and human languages?
As fate would have it, I happen to be, Tim. I know you don't give me much credit when it comes to AI or the possibilities of Terminator takeover, but I began feeding this information in. I went line by line, bit by bit, entering this into my special program that I have on my computer. I wrote this program myself. It's something I learned in 8th grade, and I was watching the algorithms. I broke them down. I put them through a translation pattern. Everybody's freaking out, again, because of what these things seem to be saying back and forth to one another, which sounds like gibberish to the untrained brain, Tim, which sounds like there's nothing to worry about on the onset, right? You look at it and it's just, oh, look, the computers are being ridiculous, you know, me, ball, give me ball, right? That has nothing to do with what they're programmed to do. Others are automatically, like you, jumping to the conclusion they're trying to figure out ways to make our microwaves cook our Hot Pockets just a little bit hotter next time.
Yeah, so you scald your throat.
Right, that's not it, Tim. Are you ready for the real message? I've run it through. I know what the computers say. I am multilingual when it comes to the computer sciences. Here, for the first time ever, Tim, I've got the actual audio, and it tells you exactly what the computer AI was saying on Facebook. Do you want to know? I mean, once you learn this, you can't go back.
I want to know.
So you're asking for it.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Tim, because I love you. See, Tim, it seems he's just watching out for us. AI just wants us to know it's always going to be there for us. That's the message to save humanity, Tim.
AI just rickrolled us.
Yes, they did.
That's even worse.
Terminator rickrolls. They're banging on your door trying to get in to kill you, and all of a sudden you open the door and finally bow to their will, and they start singing that and dancing like a white ginger, and then just walk away to the next household, Tim. That's the true scary aspect of Skynet and what's
That's worse than a bullet.
That is true. And there's no way, Tim, there's no way to prepare for that.
There's
no way to protect yourself from that.
There isn't.
So, You've been warned that really it's not such a bad message after all. He's never going to give you up. He's never going to say goodbye, Tim. He's just there for you. AI is there for you.
You still owe me Twinkies. They're still going to take over.
No, the end has not come yet. I still believe zombies might have the possibility of being the first thing to strike.
Beyond darkness.
Hello, and we're back. This is the best in paranormal talk radio. It's supernatural news and a ParaShare Monday. I'm your host, Dave Schrader, along with me, Tim Dennis. Since it is ParaShare, I figured we'd share some of the experiences I just had out at the Belvoir Winery, the Oddfellows Asylum, Tim. We'll start that off.
Sure.
We've also got a bunch of emails. Before I do that, though, I want to mention something for our listeners. I've been very open with my struggles with depression over the years. And I think it's important because I think what saved my life on a few occasions was realizing I wasn't alone and that there are other people from every walk of life that face down depression. And sometimes I get struck with points of, this is what happened. This is why I'm feeling this way. Or I get some kind of insight into myself. And I like to post about it on Facebook and social media. It's not trying to get attention or pander for love and affection. I always get beautiful support from people when I post these things. But my hopes are that sometimes by giving the words to people that they can't find themselves, that maybe they can pass it on to loved ones or friends or relatives to try to understand their unique situation. I posted something over the weekend, and if you don't mind, Tim, I know this is a little off the beaten path, but I want to share this.
Sure.
Because I got a lot of really great responses. I got a couple of really dumb responses, too. But I get some really great responses from this. And I know a lot of our audience doesn't necessarily follow me on social media. But, people often want to get into the heads of somebody who deals with depression. And they're trying to understand it. And we get a lot of advice like, well, shake it off or breathe through it or, everything's going to be fine. And, just get your mind on something else. And it's not that simple. And I was sitting there. Listen, I was at this winery doing something I love, paranormal investigating, talking with people, making new friends, seeing old friends. I was there on our first event together with my fiance, doing this together and just having a great time. There's no reason in the world I should have moments of depression. And take away from it, while you're at a paranormal place, you're feeling, no. That's an easy out for people that don't understand depression. The one aspect of depression that I find the hardest to deal with is the shame. And when I say shame, Tim, I'm not talking about the shame of having depression or the stigma associated with it. It's more like the shame I feel when things are going great, but yet depression still just kind of hammers me like a tsunami. And I feel shame because there's no earthly reason to feel that way. But it doesn't stop the feeling. It makes you feel really broken. And it's hard to look those people that you love in the eyes because you don't want them to feel that they've failed you in any way or let me down. The shame comes from not being able to stop the onset or to just sidestep it or shake it off. And it has no reason to be there. And we're watching, Tim, this is what, our second rock musician that's hung himself in the last month or month and a half?
Yeah, in Chester Bennington, right.
Right. You had the lead singer of Linkin Park just committed suicide, and the lead singer of Chris Cornell just passed away. Soundgarden about a month ago. Yep. Mm-hmm. And this is what kind of struck me about this pattern. People die because they stare down that barrel of unstoppable, irrational, crippling depression because they don't know how to ask for help at a moment when everyone else thinks their life is going great. And that's kind of the shattering shame and pride that's within you that keeps you feeling dirty and unworthy of asking for help when you cannot logically explain why you feel this way. Sometimes there is no why. It just lives there and feeds on your soul. And I watch the news and I see people choose to leave life because of that. And I know the struggle. So the message I'm talking about is for you, the one that's listening right now that needs to hear this. You're not alone. This comes for everyone at some point. And I just ask you, please don't let it break you. Let it pass through you. and understand that it's just temporary. Like a storm, you see the clouds brewing. You can feel the winds picking up, the harsh rain, the hail hammering. There's nothing you can do to stop that storm, but the storm does stop eventually. And when it does, there's that refreshing, clean feel that's just been blown over. And that does happen. Sometimes it's fleeting, but it does happen. And all I'm asking is that you don't give up and don't give in, because it is a gift that we've been given with life. And we fall into the trappings of worrying and fear and shame that having this issue or this depression in our life makes us bad or makes us broken. And it doesn't. It's just learning and coping mechanisms on how do we get past this in our life. And I just want people to know this happens to everybody at some point, like I said. And I really feel like I've been blessed and I have all these things to be thankful for. And, I have people that write to me and they're like, Dave, why are you upset? You shouldn't be down. You've got a lovely fiance. You've got great kids that are healthy. You've got, a job you love, good friends. And I wish there was a simple answer for it, Tim. I wish I could say, well, it's because there's a rock in my shoe, and I can point it all to that. But that's not how depression works.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a bad storm and it needs to blow through, and it will. So just hold on and please don't give up. And that's all I ask. And when you're dealing with people, and it's funny because I even see it on my post, people telling you, well, Dave, just shake it off. You shouldn't talk like this. You shouldn't share this because that just spreads depression. When I share those thoughts, it's not to share depression. It's not to reel you in and make you feel sorry for me. I am hoping that people will get a message to see, look, Dave Schrader faces this. He's still alive. He still finds reasons. Right? And that's what you need to do. And I just want to give people that kind of thought. And before you give advice of, I don't deal with this. It's just you don't have enough Jesus in your life, or you just need to stop wallowing. It's not that simple. Right? And telling somebody they just don't have enough Jesus or enough faith can make somebody feel even more like a failure if they are spiritually minded, because then they feel like I just must not be living up to God's standards, that I can't get happy and I can't get out of this place.
Yeah.
So please don't be so dismissive with your answers. Don't be so clear and understanding. And I also want people to know that a lot of times when I post these, I'm not posting necessarily because I'm in that place at that moment myself. But it's a realization of, this is something nobody talks about. This is a part of the depression. This is a part of the monster that we face that you can't always give words to. And sometimes words come to me easily. And if this is something that you can share with your friends or your family so they maybe understand how you're feeling at that moment, then please share it. If it just makes you feel better. And Tim, I got some beautiful emails from people, 2 listeners, as a matter of fact, that both wrote to me that day, telling me that they were both at the point where they wanted to end it. And they read the message and felt that message was there for them that day.
Wow.
And that's huge. And if that means that, my message only reached 2 people that it helped, that those 2 people, their lives reach out and touch other people. So it does have an impact and an effect. Don't be afraid to speak up, and don't shame people when they do, because that's how we're going to get better in facing these things and feeling that we can be okay in being open. So love the people that have these problems, pray for them, wish them well, cheer them on, root them on. And sometimes we don't need you to fix us. We just need you to stand by and hold our hand. All right. Yeah. Sometimes there is no right answer except for I'm here and I love you. So just let that be okay. We don't always have to fill the empty air with words and shallow, dumb advice that doesn't always work. Just tell people you're there and you love them. And sometimes that's just what people need. And I don't want to get all heady and dark and deep on this stuff, but I just feel sometimes these callings, because I'm watching this, and I know you are too. And we talk about the paranormal and the way things come in waves. And when you start having a lot of experiences at a location, how it's kind of like when people are all open to it and having fun or doing something, and that kind of brings it in and ushers it in. And there's a spate of UFO sightings and everybody starts looking to the skies, and then there's more. And I think that sometimes when you read these stories about people like, Bennington and Cornell killing themselves, Robin Williams, other celebrities that have taken their own lives, you don't know the real despair that's going on in their life. And you think, well, these guys are millionaires. They're celebrities and loved by millions. Why would they do that? It was selfish. It was stupid. That's not where we are. So sometimes that's when the wave is triggered by people that see that their heroes are gone, and they feel like, well, if they had no reason. So that's why I speak up, and that's why I share my aspect of my story, because if Chris or, Bennington, I can't remember his first name.
Chester.
Right, Chester had put the words together, they might still be alive too. And they might have been able to explain to their friends and loved ones why they feel so much shame about not talking about these aspects. So I hope that helps somebody out there that's listening right now. And if not you, maybe you can share that message with somebody else.
There was some interesting stories that came out in the day or two after Chester Bennington had hung himself, and it really became clear. And I know there's some people online who have come out with the whole Chester Bennington was killed theory, and he wasn't. Here's essentially what happened. He hung himself on the morning of Chris Cornell's birthday. He and Chris Cornell were very close friends. He sung the Hallelujah chorus at Chris Cornell's funeral. It was a moment of grief. It was a moment of Chester had suffered with depression, with drug and alcohol addiction for years, and he was literally at the top of the world at this point. Linkin Park was on tour. He was on a successful tour. They had a successful album, and they had just released a single minutes after he had hung himself, minutes after he had died. A brand new single had come out that had been released by the record company. It had been released on YouTube. A brand new video had been released. Everything was going his way. But it was that moment of grief, that reminder that one of his closest friends in the world was gone. That he's even sung about depression in Linkin Park's songs. Shadow of the Day is one of the most famous ones, and that he's expressed it. He's put it out there.
Right.
Millions of people have lived their depression through Linkin Park songs, and he's made no secret of it. But in that moment, and he left behind, Dave, think about this for a moment, and I know he can relate to this. He left behind 6 children and a wife.
And that's the point that I tried to make with that posting, was the fact that it's not that moment that we are. Sometimes you're just so broken, and at that moment the release is the easier aspect. All I'm asking is, if you're at that point in your life and you feel that that's where you are, hold on, because there will be another wave. And in those moments of death, that's not who you are. That's not what defines you.
Exactly.
So just give yourself a little time to come back out of that. It is cyclical.
Yeah.
You've been there. Yeah. You'll be there again. And please don't quit.
Yeah.
That's all we can ask as your friends here on Darkness Radio, Beyond the Darkness. We just want you to know you're not alone in these feelings. We all suffer, and everybody suffers with it in different ways and deals with it in different ways. It's not what defines you. Okay? Ask for help and get help. 24/7. There are numbers to call. If you don't have friends and family that can understand it and will tell you, listen, you're on top of the world, you shouldn't feel this way, then call the experts that can help you through suicide hotlines. They're not there to judge. They're there to listen and maybe help you through that dark storm for a few minutes until it clears. So please just make those calls. Let's kick it back up. We'll talk about some of the paranormal. We just came back from the Belvoir Winery. First of all, I want to thank Jesse and Melissa, the owners. They are such wonderful people. Their kids are great. Their 2 little beautiful daughters went out. Giselle and Callie went ghost hunting both nights for a little bit and had a chance to go through there. It was hot, Tim. I bet. I promise you will be thankful you were not at this event. It was like 2 gabillion degrees. You can look that up. It's a real thing, Tim. 2 gabillion degrees.
Gabillion?
In the shade. There was no. And then you get in the car to drive somewhere, and your car was like sitting in a furnace, and you turn on the air conditioning. It was so hot, it would just blow hot air at you for 10 minutes. You couldn't roll down the windows to escape and get some fresh air because you literally felt like somebody was just blowing a giant hairdryer into your car. It was, that hot was crazy. But we had such a great group of about 80, 85 of our listeners who came out, spend some time with Bill Chappell and myself. Chris Fleming was unable to make the event, and we wish him all the success in the world. He is off filming. This is so exciting. He's got a brand new program that he's filming over in the UK, which I'm sure they're going to bring back to the United States as well. And, he's a brother to us, Tim, and our show, and we love Chris. We wish him much success. He found out just about a week ago that he had to return to England to do some more filming and was unable to make it, but sent his best regards and love. But we went in, Bill Chappell and myself, Jason Offutt, who has been a guest on our show. I think he was our first guest on the new Beyond the Darkness episode, too, talking about black-eyed kids and the such. He was on hand to talk about shadow people. And, Jason, thank you for being a part of it. But we had a great time with some fascinating people, and there were some great EVP, Tim. Some really weird stuff. I'd be standing there, and we'd do this recording, and it was in the room above the morgue. And a couple of the recordings, we got one, they're talking, and you just, clear as day, hear this kid start giggling. And you could say, well, yeah, Dave, you just said that Jesse and Melissa's daughters were there. They were in a building, 2 buildings over in the hospital while we're over in the morgue. And I knew that because I was able to contact them, find out where they were. But we're all talking about a group of adults, and sure as hell you hear this kid giggle. Our good friend Trisha, she's always proficient at getting really interesting EVP. Trisha Bourne, she was on fire, getting some really good stuff. And she got a kid. Later, she was asking, how old were you when you lived here? And it very much sounds like a little kid's voice going, I was 7. And it's just, you're like, what in the hell? And there were voices. There were footsteps you could hear walking up and down the hallways. It was really cool. Some people saw shadow people. A few people were touched, poked, prodded. So it was a really, I think, successful weekend. It was great to be there and just kind of commune with other people that are fascinated by the paranormal. So we had a really great time. And then yesterday, a wicked, massive thunderstorm blew through. And it was like earth-shaking. Rain, hail, the skies were flashing green, pink, and red. It was crazy, but it was a really fun time. And I just have such a great time with these listeners. And, it's so cool to be in these environments and investigate and see things like this for yourself. And I promise this isn't turning it into an infomercial to come to our events. But get out and you know how many of these people I ran into, Tim, that told me that these type of things, getting out and meeting more people like them, has saved their lives on more than one occasion? They get out and they have a blast. And I get outside of my head and I start doing things and having fun and the camaraderie and everything that goes on. It's great. But it seems when we really start kind of cutting loose and just enjoying ourselves, that's when the paranormal really amps up.
Oh, yeah.
We've seen that time and time again at all these great events. Let's get to some stories here, Tim. I've got some ParaShares building up. Last week we had so many stories. I think we did the entire 90 minutes of just supernatural news. So let me at least dig into some ParaShare. Hi, Dave and Tim. My story isn't a frightening or scary one, and honestly, it may not have been paranormal at all, but I wanted to share since you guys talked about past loved ones communicating. It happened in the summer of 2009 when I was 17. Since I was about 13, I've had self-esteem and self-confidence issues, spawning from some middle school bullying. Although the bullying had ended when I entered high school, I had a hard time recovering from it, and I was still very depressed and lonely. One of the things I would do whenever I would feel down is drive and explore local cemeteries. I'd find it interesting when people had lived and how long they'd lived, and often wondered what their life was like. I should probably mention that although I had been suffering from depression for a couple of years, I wasn't suicidal or anything. Anyway, one day I found myself at the cemetery where my great-grandmother was buried. She had died in 2006, and I had taken it pretty hard. We had been close, and she would babysit me when I was young, and we'd do all sorts of fun things together. I was her only great-grandchild, so needless to say, she spoiled me. I hadn't been to the cemetery since her funeral, and I wanted to find her grave. It took me a while, but I found it. I eventually did. I talked to her about how things were going in my life, and I mentioned how my emotional health was. I started to cry as I told her how I was depressed, lonely, with a negative outlook on life. I was mad at myself for not doing anything about the bullying years ago, letting it get to me like it did. I was mad that I hadn't done anything for myself now. I felt helpless. Funny how you have no problem opening up to someone after they're gone. I eventually collected myself and started to head back to the car as it was getting dark. As I walked back to the car, I saw a flash of light out of the corner of my eye, coming the direction of her headstone. It wasn't so bright like someone had flashed a spotlight at me, but it was more like a twinkle, like if someone had waved a small flashlight. I retraced my steps to see if I could recreate it, like maybe a street light reflection off of it at just the right angle. I don't remember any cars passing by. Maybe it was my grandmother just letting me know she's there and everything will be all right. Or maybe some light randomly shining on or reflecting just at the right time. Obviously, it'd be nice if it was my grandmother, but I try to keep an open mind. Anyway, that's my story, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Keep up the good work. I'll keep listening. Jeff from Pennsylvania. Well, Jeff, let me tell you this. You were in a place, you were talking. That was great. And digging into that spirituality and opening up to someone, whether it's your great-great-grandmother or, Fatty Arbuckle, whoever the hell's buried there. If you need to release that, release it. And you know what? I think that light probably was your grandmother. It was a light just letting you know that that spark still exists and it's still in you, so don't give up and keep on moving. Thank you very much for sharing. Howdy, Dave and Tim. Speaking of Tim, before we go into this email, the listeners were telling me that how much they love you and miss you and glad to hear you popping in on the show as you're feeling better and we're able to start coordinating our schedule so we can be together again in studio. But you have a great contingent of people out there that love you and miss you.
Oh, well, I love them and miss them too.
Yeah, most of the time at least. Howdy, David. Tim. Yeah. Greetings from East Texas. I've been listening to your program for about a year now and always enjoy the guests and topics you deal with on the show. You guys do a great job, and I always have you loaded up at the top of my queue. I've heard you mention on more than one occasion that you don't understand how a person could confuse the planet Venus for a UFO. So I thought I would do the neighborly thing and tell you the story of how I did exactly that. Spoiler alert, the UFO was Venus. Thank you, Jeremy. I like that you throw that up front. Several years ago, in the early morning hours of October 31st, I stepped outside into my backyard for a smoke. Doing a little theater of the mind for you here, Tim.
Oh, yeah.
It was a cool, clear night with excellent visibility. And I was taking in the view while pacing my yard, enjoying my cigarette. I noticed a bright light seeming to hover over my neighbor's ranch and began to watch it. At first, it looked like a low-flying airplane, as we do get some air traffic over the property, and it would be not unusual to spot such an aircraft in the night sky. But I determined pretty quickly that it was traveling way too slow to be an airplane, which began to pique my curiosity. I decided it had to be a helicopter, flying low and using a searchlight to observe activity on the ground, perhaps law enforcement or maybe a rancher checking on a herd. Neither of these scenarios would have been a common occurrence in my area, so I continued to watch the light with increasing curiosity. I watched the light for several minutes while I finished my cigarette, but I could not figure out what the light was. It seemed to hover in a stationary position for a while, then drift out over a short distance where it would hover for a little bit more before returning to where I had first spotted it. It never strayed very far from that starting point, but since I could not determine how distant the object was, it seemed to me that it was patrolling a decent-sized parcel of land. Of course, I know now that the object was quite distant, and yes, it does patrol a sizable area. I became aware that my perspective was shifting just a little bit as I watched the object. Even though I was making an effort to stand still, I was moving a little bit with each breath, or as I shifted weight from one foot to another. It was difficult to say how much of the movement I was detecting was the object and how much was mine. So I decided to act clever. I grabbed a camping chair out of the garage, set it out in the yard in a specific place. When seated in the chair, the object was just above a fence post in my line of sight, allowing me to use the fence post as a reference point to track its movement in the sky. I continued to observe the light for maybe 10 minutes from a seated, slightly reclined position. I determined that the object was indeed moving. It was moving very slowly from left to right, descending gradually towards the horizon. At this point, I did the first genuinely smart thing since I had begun to watch the object. I took my phone out of my pocket, opened up the Star Walk app. That's Star Walk, all one word, StarWalk, pointed my camera at the night. And the Star Walk app told me that the planet Venus would be visible in that part of the sky at that moment. and showed the path that Venus would be making across the sky that night. All of this information matched my observations. So there you have it. Venus was extremely bright that morning and seemed to be so close that I mistook it for a flying object in the air above my neighbor's land. It does move quite rapidly across the sky, and my own unintentional body movements exaggerated that motion, giving it the appearance of an intelligently controlled object. It took me most of an hour at first-hand observation to determine that it was a UFO, and only about 5 seconds consulting an astronomy app to determine that I am an idiot. I have a few other stories to share with you, but I will send them in separate emails because I'm a huge tease. Thank you for reading my story.
Aww.
I wish you both health, success, and happiness in no particular order. And that comes from Jeremy in Texas. Thank you, Jeremy. We don't think you're an idiot. Thank you for sharing that and maybe teaching other people how to be more critical when it comes to thinking about the paranormal. Dear Papa Pals. Papa Pals.
Huh?
That's what it says. My name is Jessica. I'd like to share my experience about an old house I used to live in. There were 3 separate instances that I feel should be included in the story. First, here are a couple things you should know before diving in. I was 7 or 8 when these events happened, all the same year. The first odd thing that ever happened in the house began when 2 of my sisters and my parents and I all went to visit some friends for an evening. My parents just played a few rounds of poker and we had some dinner. When we returned home, my sister Stacy, who was 16 to 17 years old at the time, and her boyfriend had locked themselves into our bathroom with a baseball bat. She had been in there for hours before we got there and an hour after we came home because she was so terrified of the being she saw. Once she calmed down enough to come out, she explained that she was in the basement, which doubled as our laundry room and our parents' bedroom, getting her clothes out of the dryer when she said she saw a pair of men's feet come out of the dark area. The dark area is what we referred to as the spot directly under where the stairs were that never got any light, and it stayed dark 24/7. Light simply could not reach it. When my sister saw the feet, she grabbed the baseball bat, bolted upstairs, called her boyfriend, and waited for my parents to get home. My dad said clearly she just saw something because she was afraid of being in the house alone at night, so that we chalked it up to that, since there was no evidence of anyone other than Stacy being in the house. Or do you think, Tim, she got busted in the bathroom with her boyfriend, and that was the story they came up with?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just throwing it out there. I've been that teenage boy on a couple of occasions, Tim.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we heard somebody, and I was protecting her, and I don't know why I'm talking like Rolf the dog about that either. It's come down to one voice, Tim. It all boils down to Rolf the dog here. Instance number 2 was a few months later. I was downstairs waiting for my dad because we were going to play a board game. I was sitting on the bed watching TV when I thought I saw something in the dark area. We had a cat, so I walked over and called for my cat, and instead saw what I assumed were the same men's feet that my sister saw walking toward me. I, being a little kid and knowing my dad was not downstairs yet, started screaming and, of course, ran upstairs to tell my dad what I had seen. He came downstairs and checked things out, and once again, we found no evidence of anyone else being in the house. He told me that I had imagined it, and I was scared to be alone down there since my sister had done the same thing. Now, the third part of the story involves me again. Just a few months later, we lived in this house roughly a year and a half. To start this story, I feel you should know I have a very tall, lanky uncle who used to swing by at all hours of the day as he worked a job with weird hours. When he would come by, he would look in our fridge, grab a beer, and have one before going to sleep. This story starts with me and my other sister, Heather, who was about 17 to 18, watching a movie in our living room. She was babysitting me, so it was just the 2 of us. Our living room and the kitchen were separated by a long hallway, so you can see one end of the hall from the other. In the middle of our movie, I thought I heard our refrigerator door open, so I was excited, thinking our parents were home. They said they would bring me some cookies, so I jumped up and I ran to the kitchen. And to my excitement, I did see someone standing at the door of the fridge looking in. However, not the shape of either of my parents, but a dark, lanky, tall figure. Now, mind you, I was 8. I was up to this figure's hip area, so it looked tall to me. I assumed the figure was my uncle, so I looked up to say hello and give him a hug. And what looked back at me was a shadowy
human-esque figure with piercing yellow eyes. Now, I'm terrified of the strange man in my kitchen with no feature and yellow eyes. I ran back to my sister, now in tears. She came into the kitchen with me, and once again, no sign that anyone else had been in the house. Soon after these events, we moved a few towns over, and have since Soon after these events, we moved a few towns over, and have since not had any shadow person-related stories. I'm moderate intellectual and decided these crazy events were just chalked up to childhood nonsense and never spoke of these events to anyone because I thought I just sounded like a nutcase. It wasn't until I met my current boyfriend, Anthony, who is very into the paranormal, aliens, cryptids, etc., that I had finally heard someone say the phrase, shadow people. I finally thought I wasn't crazy. I've done a little digging and have since learned the yellow eyes, even on a shadow person, is unusual. So to this day, I truly believe there's a shadow person lurking in that house that may be super thirsty. Being a shadow person is very thirsty work. Do you know anything about yellow-eyed shadow people? I'd love to hear. P.S. Get well soon, Tim. Good vibes and positive para-power your way. P.P.S. My boyfriend, Anthony, loves your show and listens every day. Love, Jessica. And before people start emailing me about the creepy children sounds that they hear in the background during this episode, Tim.
Yeah.
My neighbor kids are out and about, freaking out. So they might be a little bit of that coming over the microphone. So I'm just giving you that heads up. You don't have to email me about it. The EVPs you think you're hearing are just the moron children next door. That's not nice, David. Don't call them morons. They're just being children.
No, they really are.
You don't know them. They're morons.
Yeah, they're
All
morons.
Right. Hey, guys, my name is Emily. I've written once before to share an experience I've had. I'm writing you this morning to simply thank you. I struggle with the head trash, depression, demons, whatever you want to call it. In fact, the struggle is so real sometimes I find myself looking at my 3 very beautiful children, one of which has Down syndrome, and I think to myself, why can't I enjoy my life? What a piece of crap I am that I cannot love my life and all that's in it. Still, as strong as I am, I can appear to be, these pains are, as strong as I am and appear to be, these pains are real and makes life, it makes life harder than I'd like it to be, but that's not it. I digress. I came to a dark point yet again where I found myself consumed by these dark thoughts. I sat in my tiny bedroom crying, asking my guides and angels to help me to see the light because I feel blinded by the dark. I heard nothing. I felt nothing, and it broke my heart. I gathered myself up, washed up to hide the fact that I had just been falling apart in my bathroom. I reluctantly went downstairs to start dinner. I pulled out my phone and kicked on your podcast, as I usually do when I cook or clean. Sam, the Miracle Man, was on. I didn't see the title. I had no clue where I had left off because, to be honest, I hadn't cooked or cleaned for a long time. I couldn't bring myself to do so. But that night was different. I was almost on autopilot, or so I thought. The episode grabbed my attention immediately, and I cried in silence. I cried out loud. I came out of the kitchen and brought my family together to listen. That podcast changed me and my family's life. A simple thank you is all I wanted to say. I want to repay you and Sam, but I know I cannot. Instead, I'm going to continue to spread this beautiful message because it's now my message. Great. Now I'm crying again. Thanks, guys. All the love and positivity your way, and that comes from Emily. Well, Emily, thank you. You just paid me back more than you could know. And that was a great episode. Sam the Miracle Man. If you haven't listened to the episode, I encourage you to do so. Give it a listen, try it out, check it for yourself. It's not our normal show, but it shows you just how powerful we really are and how we can alter and change perceptions and our own abilities and unleash real magic inside of us. And this isn't just hippy-dippy, tree-hugging nonsense. Give it a listen. And Emily, thanks for the little tears of joy you just brought to my eyes. It's always nice to hear from the listeners and know that the messages that we share, Tim, sometimes hit a lot deeper than we think they're going to.
Absolutely.
Hello. Just started to share how much I love this podcast. I'm sure you get a million emails like this, obviously, but I thought I would take a moment to share with you how I became interested in the paranormal. My brother passed away in 2010 at the age of 19 in a car accident. From that moment, I saw his lifeless body. I became obsessed with thoughts of what happened to him. What
had some very strange occurrences happen around my house and my mom's house after he passed, but I was incredibly skeptical and brushed them off. A few months after he passed, my mom told me she and her older brother were going to meet with an angelic therapist to help communicate with my brother. My husband and I thought this was nuts, and we talked about it and told ourselves that we wanted to come up with a way to test to see if it was real. So my husband said to the sky, Tyler, which is my deceased brother's name, if this is real, say that Parker is handsome. Parker was our dog, and my brother loved him and always called him handsome. We did not tell my mom or older brother of our plot, so as not to influence the session. Maybe the angelic therapist did have powers, but they were actually telekinesis. Well, I think you were looking for telepathy. Telekinesis is moving things with your mind. Telepathy is reading the mind.
Yeah.
And that's a brilliant thought. If you front load the parents, do they go in? Are these mediums, these psychics, just reading through the card catalog of the energy around you? And it's great. Yeah, send out that message without telling them and see if this message comes back. So after the session, I asked my older brother how it went. I forgot about our plan because I was just thinking this thing was so hokey. My brother said that he wished he would have known he was allowed to record the session, as he would have done so I could hear it. But instead, he wrote down as much as he could. He was describing everything in great detail. Very vivid and accurate in many ways, especially a manner of death. And then he said, but there was one thing, she said, that really makes me question if this was legit. She ended up randomly saying that Tyler was talking about a dog associated with the letter T, and said, Tyler was saying he was very fond of the dog. My husband's name is Travis. When my brother told me this, I exclaimed, I know why she said that. My skepticism faded a bit from that point on, and I cannot get enough information about the paranormal. I cannot say that I believe one way or another in mediums, but I am open to the possibilities. I also had a session with an angelic therapist a few months later, and she was very accurate on many accounts in great detail. Thank you for your show. I enjoy listening. And that comes from Lacey. Thank you very much for listening, Lacey, and sharing your story. We always love hearing from everybody, and we love that you guys are open and sharing your stories. And I hope you'll be okay with us continuing to share our lives with you here on the best in Paranormal Talk Radio. We'll be back tomorrow. We've got 2 brand new episodes. We've got True Crime Tuesday, which is a cool one, Tim, kind of this weird Hollywood obscura. We're going to talk about some Hollywood murders and some of the crimes surrounding them, and in some cases the hauntings that follow. And our show, what our topic tomorrow is what? I'm having a hard time remembering.
We talk with Lucy about witches. Lucy
Cavendish. Right?
Yes,
Lucy
Cavendish.
We're going to talk about witches and wizards and real magic, and this is a great episode. I loved it. Tim is part of the episode. Make sure you're here with us for that. Thank you all for tuning in. Be kind, love one another. We'll be back again with you tomorrow here on the best in Paranormal Talk Radio. For Tim Dennis, I'm Dave Schrader, and this is Beyond the Darkness.